Okay, so today I was just going to come in and talk about Black history before we were enslaved and before colonization happened. And one of the best resources that I have for it is this book here called When We Ruled, and it's by Robin Walker. So what I was going to do is today I'm going to read the introduction, and then throughout the rest of Black History Month I am going to read just an excerpt out of it. So the introduction was written by Runoko Rashidi, and I don't know why I'm nervous, but for some reason I'm nervous. But so I'm going to say that. It's kind of like when you was in school and you had to read in front of the whole classroom. That's what it feels like. So if I mess up, that's where we at, okay? But anywho. So I'm just going to read this introduction written by Runoko Rashidi. Runoko Rashidi is one of our now ancestors. He's a historian, and he just really highlights the African presence all over America. I'm sorry, not all over America, but all over the world. So he'll do like the African presence in South America, the African presence in Asia. He goes to different islands and talks to the indigenous people there and just sees like the similarities between basically African people all over the world. So this is his introduction to When We Ruled. And again, When We Ruled is written by Robin Walker. And this is titled That Other African and the Lion's Historian, an introduction to the Black Classic Press edition of When We Ruled. When We Ruled, The Ancient and Medieval History of Black Civilizations by Robin Walker is the broadest single survey of early African American humanity and civilizations yet compiled by a scholar of African descent. It is a grand overview of what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima referred to as that other African. Not the stereotypical black savage so graphically depicted in the early Hollywood movies, nor the aimless, clueless, babbling slave incapable of deliberate action without the instructions from his white master. No, the other African described in this major, sweeping work is the African who first populated the earth and who gave birth to and significantly influenced the world's oldest and most magnificent civilizations throughout time. It is the African who entered history not as a slave, but as a master or mistress in control of his or her own destiny. And When We Ruled is the powerful chronicle of their long-standing and broad-reaching legacy. In Walker's own words, When We Ruled brings together over 200 years of research on the early history and heritage of Black people. Indeed, the book references and incorporates the works of a wide range of African and non-African scholars, fully embracing Qua David Whitaker's maxim that what you do for yourself depends on what you think of yourself, and what you think of yourself depends on what you know of yourself, and what you know of yourself depends on what you have been told. In 22 chapters, When We Ruled examines the nature of what we call Black history, critically surveying the often shoddy documentation of that history. It exhumes the truth about African roots of humanity, the origins and evolutions of human culture, and the early peopling of Africa. Importantly, it focuses upon African civilization in the Valley of the Nile, and analyzes the key historical phases of ancient Egypt. Critical exercises for any professed scholar of African history and vital pieces of Africa's legacy. These are key elements that Walker notes so many scholars of European descent have chosen, quite deliberately it seems, to distort, delete, or ignore. Though Walker maintains that the ancient Nile Valley was a site of classical African civilization at its highest point, he makes it clear that it was the Upper Nile Valley, the land of the burnt-faced people of Ethiopia, that gave birth to the world's oldest monarchy, the Tasseti of ancient Egypt, then known as Kemet. Kemet was the greatest nation of antiquity. Walker emphasizes an Ethiopia's most celebrated successor. Walker knowledgeably asserts that Kemet has long enthralled scholars throughout the world and throughout history, and why should it not be? He further claims that the examination of Kemetic civilizations is the examination of perhaps the proudest and loftiest accomplishments in the whole of human annals, and that it probably will continue to be the primary focus of human studies for some time to come. To its credit, When We Ruled presents a lengthy and strikingly notable list of Kemetic society achievements. Walker offers conclusive evidence that not only were Kemet's origins African, but also that African people endowed with dark complexions, full lips, broad noses, and tightly curled hair were dominant in both the general population and in the reigning elite through the mass of its dynastic period. Walker further makes it clear that as important as ancient Egypt was, civilization in Africa was not confined to the Nile Valley. After his sweeping examination of Kemet, he focuses on two other great North African civilizations, ancient Carthage and Numidia. Carthage, of course, is familiar to most of us for the much heralded exploits of that great African warrior, King Hannibal Barca. Walker explains, however, that Numidia is also important, although not nearly as well known. After an exhaustive focus on the ancient African civilizations of the Nile Valley, When We Ruled shifts its attention to West Africa, the Sahel, and Central Africa, home to the great African kingdoms of Nok, Igbo, Ukwa, Yorubaland, Great Benin, Congo, Kanem, Bornu, and the Hausa Confederation. It also examines the empires of ancient Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, meticulously confining Walker's assertion that civilization in Africa was continent-wide. Walker next adroitly turns his attention east and south to examine the ancient civilization of the Swahili states, medieval Nubia, and Zimbabwe, again confirming that ancient Egypt, though it remains the centerpiece of the study of early African civilization, does not constitute the totality of Africa's ancient greatness. When We Ruled also details the influence and impact of ancient civilizations beyond the continent of Africa. Following the tradition of many early scholars and paralleling my own writings, When We Ruled traces the imprints of African on development of ancient civilizations in Sumer in southern Iraq, the kingdom of Elam in early Iran, the Harappan or Indus Valley civilizations in Pakistan and India, and Arabia Felix in Yemen in the southwest Arabian Peninsula. It also makes a brief foray into the Moorish Spain to bask in the glory of African peoples' influence in and on southern Europe. Other important chapters in this masterwork include one examining the role of Islam in African culture. Another chapter, The Fall of Africa and Resistance, follows the footsteps of Chancellor Williams to highlight the role of the Arabs as persecutors to the European invasion of Africa. Following an extensive afterword by Faraki Sapia, When We Ruled closes with a superb historical chronology and comprehensive bibliography. When We Ruled is a timely and immensely important work of benefit to scholars and students alike. I am proud to add it to my library. Robin Walker should be saluted for this massive study, and Black Classic Press should be commended for publishing it. Their efforts give tooth to the African proverb that says, "Until the lion has his historian, a hunter will always be a hero." Clearly, with the publication of this work, it can be held firmly and with certainty that the lion, at last, has his historian. To both Robin Walker and Black Classic Press, well done. And again, that introduction was by the now elevated ancestor, Runoko Rashidi. And throughout the rest of Black History Month, I am going to be reading excerpts from here so that we can get familiar with Africans prior to enslavement, so that we know that our history did not start in chains, and that, to be honest, African people were at the forefront of civilization in and of itself. So hopefully you tune in the rest of Black History Month. It was good to see all of you. Hey. But yeah. Y'all be safe and stay Black if you are Black. And if you're not, support a Black person because it's Black History Month. Have a great day.